Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, this is Boisterous, along with special guest commentator Cadoink, bringing you some Diamond League destruction out of the map Cloud Kingdom LE. Spawning up here in the top right hand corner, we have supaflyz as the red Protoss, and down here in the bottom left hand corner, we have his opponent FxAVicius. I think that's supposed to be vicious, but he completely spelt it wrong, and he's the blue Zerg player. So, Cadoink, we're playing on the infamous snake map that you hate, love, I forget. I can't keep up with your ratings of maps anymore.
Yeah, you know, I actually like this map. The more I see games on it, the more I'm happy with it. I don't particularly like playing on it that much. But right now my biggest beef with the map pool is that they're all the same texture pack.
Yeah, they
Tile
are.
set, basically. I mean, think about it. Entombed Valley, GSL, I always start with GSL, but Daybreak, Cloud Kingdom, Metropolis, Atlantis Spaceship.
Metropolis
Think of all
isn't
these-
the ladder map anymore.
No, well, not a ladder map, but I mean,
Oh yeah, you mean
it's
just like
always in the
maps
map.
that are used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all grayscale, you know?
Yeah, they are. Well,
Where are the green maps? Where are the fire maps? Where are the desert maps, you know?
Well, they do have Ohana. So
Ohana
that's
is
something.
sweet, and I love Ohana, but it's like the only map that looks like that. All the map tile sets are basically the same, and actually we have a Gateway first build coming out of supaflyz, which I think is super awesome.
Yeah, it's something that you actually don't see a whole lot anymore in PvZ, purely because it's gone. And we have a 2-gate out of supaflyz. So it looks like he's actually going to be in for punishing a fast hatchery, but there is no fast hatchery. So I don't know why he's going for this 2-gate play.
Yeah, usually when you go for 2-gate, you pretend like you want to deny the base with the probe, and then you let him put it down. And actually, it looks like Vicious might put it down on the 3rd. Oh, that actually that could hurt him big time.
Yeah, that could. However, at the same time, Vicious built a spawning pool first.
That's true.
Which denies a lot of the damage that the 2-gate could do. Of course, the 2-gate is still Zealots, and Zealots are quite good against Zerglings. However, it does definitely, stop that Zealot harass from actually, killing you.
Right. The problem I foresee is that the Queen can't get to that 3rd base. That's not happening.
That's kind of
and
awkward.
you're only going to be able to build Zerglings at that 3rd. When you build them in the main, they're still going to have to run down. I don't know. I feel like that could hurt him quite a bit, but it looks like supaflyz is just going to be putting down his Nexus and not putting on any pressure. It's kind of interesting. Why go 2-gate when you're not going to put any pressure on?
Yeah, that just seems really to slow down your tech completely, and he's even chrono boosting out Zealots.
Oh, maybe he's just going to build up a few and then go?
Yeah, but at that point, the timing of the strike has passed, because that 3rd base is going to have a Queen up.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, it's just now about to finish. About a second or two left on that, and then he'll probably start his Queen. So, and then he's also taking his natural. So even if he loses that 3rd, I mean, it won't be the end of the world.
And the Overlord did just scout those 3 Zealots.
Yeah, so now he can even put down a Spine Crawler if he wants to. In fact, I'd recommend it anyway. You're going to need him late game, so might as well.
Yeah. And we actually have a Queen that ran to that 3rd base.
Jeez, what a hero Queen. Things she saw over the past few years of her walking.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah, we have Zealots coming up. Actually, there's nothing here but a Zergling and this Queen. They might be able to pick off the Queen.
Nah, the Queen's too fast and creep to get picked off by Zealots. However, they're
Yeah.
going to do a small amount of damage to the Zerglings, or the drones, I mean. But it's nothing impressive, and it's nothing to write home about, certainly. And if we look at supaflyz base, he did finally finish his cybernetics core. I was gonna say he didn't have a cybernetics core, but I just didn't see it in production tab. And we have these Zealots actually doing a lot of damage to these Zerglings. They're actually going to clean up all of these Zerglings without even losing a Zealot.
Wow.
This Queen should kill a Zealot? Huh?
It's nice positioning. He needs to micro one of the Zealots back. There he goes. Just to make sure that it doesn't get picked off by that Queen. And wow, I think he's even going to get the hatch.
I don't know why this Queen is running away.
I know, right? She's fine.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, and the Queen does return to the fight, but she's sniping at the wrong one, and those Broodlings come out to, harass those Zealots a little bit, but the Zealots did all of the damage they needed to do. Cadoink, how did that just happen?
You know, I don't know. It was like the latest 2-gate you ever had. You have a queen there. You could have put down a spine crawler, no problem. Yeah, that's kind of weird by Vicious. I'm just gonna call him Vicious, even if he didn't mean it to be vicious. Because I feel like that was quite a vicious mistake. But he does have his natural up, but he's not droning that hard. I mean, he's only got
He did just make 11 drones.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He actually has a good amount of drones. He's at 30, of course. That's not really where you want to be. But when you go for a third base like that, and then your third base gets sniped, and you need to make 20 Zerglings to save it, or try to save it, that's kind of what happens.
Yeah.
So his drones are behind, most certainly. However, they're not epically behind, and it's not irrecoverably behind.
Right.
But it's a super awkward spot for this guy to be in.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, very weird. And supaflyz is going for the Dark Shrine. I don't think that's a very wise move. He did just deny the third, so he knows that that third up isn't going to be up and running. In fact, he's just running by with a probe, and he knows that there is no third there. And DTs can do damage, even if there's detection, it can do damage. But only when the Zerg player is a little more spread out, and you can kind of split your DTs up. But with 2 bases, that's going to be a little more difficult to pull off. However, if Vicious just... Okay, there it goes, putting down an Evo chamber. So yeah, I don't think that'll do that much damage.
I think you're like 20 seconds behind me currently.
Am I really?
Yeah, and at the same time, I mean, those DTs can still do damage purely because there's no layer. So even if they get to the base and there's spore crawlers morphing in, all they need to do is just keep sniping spore crawlers from that base. DTs do a lot of damage. If they even find spore crawler, oh, we actually have a 5 zealot strike coming in. And,
yeah,
these zealots are going after the queen instantly. The queen does go down. A lot of Zerglings are coming back in, but these are +1 zealots right now, and these Zerglings do not have armor upgrades, so these zealots are going to be amazingly cost efficient against these Zerglings. The queen is doing her best to defend her brood. However, all of these Zerglings are just getting absolutely wiped off the map. So many Zerglings going down, and these zealots are finally going to get cleaned up. They didn't do a whole lot of economic damage, however, just forcing out that many Zerglings was something that the Zerg player could really not afford to do. We have 3 DTs on the way. The layer is not yet finished, and there has been no detection spotted for these DTs. So he has no idea these are on the way. The spore crawlers are not even anywhere close to going down. There's a second roachborn on the way.
Yeah, now that this third base is just about to finish, these DTs are going to do a lot more damage. They might even be able to pick it off before any kind of detection come down. Just now starting to hit at that base. The Zerglings are safely hiding behind, waiting for those spore crawlers to go up, but the hatchery will indeed go down. And man, twice. Oh, that's so bad for Vicious.
Yeah, that's very, very depressing. Now, of course, these DTs aren't going to do any more damage, and that's why I actually think that if you have DTs and you know your opponent doesn't have detection, go for the throat. Like, literally, just go for the main base, snipe that Evo chamber, and then snipe any spore crawlers he's building in the main base, and then snipe the main hatchery, and then snipe all the tech, and then just win the game.
Yeah, that can be risky, though, because if they do manage to spot it in time and manage to get 1 spore crawler up, then your DTs will have been wasted. And I do love that he was able to take out the third, and that third was worth well more than 3 DTs, and the DTs just now getting cleaned up. But now supaflyz can take his base safely. He's going to kill these 2 Zerglings. He can get some more gateways up. He doesn't have too many right now. Only stuck at about 6. Would like to see a few more coming out from supaflyz. But now he can just sit back and relax. He's kept the Zerg on 2 bases for so long. There's only 43 drones out at the 12-minute mark. That's devastating for a Zerg player.
Yeah, and that's 43 drones to 58 probes, and you really need to outnumber your opponent in probe count and base count, and our Zerg player just can't do that at this point. He's building the preemptive spore crawler in the middle of nowhere. There's actually even no building hatchery currently there. And we have 3 Archons currently built. So he's using those DTs kind of just to morph over into Archons, and that's what you do with DTs once their damage has been done and the detection is up.
Yeah, that's such a good
really
move.
Useless.
I think Vicious is making a huge mistake at this point in the game. He's building up a lot of defenses, but he knows his opponent probably isn't going to attack, because what do you do when you just do a huge amount of damage to your opponent? You sit back and take the advantage. You get up another base, you defend it with some cannons, you get your probes up, and so really Vicious is just building an army that will eventually be heavily outweighed by the fact that he doesn't have enough drones to reinforce it, doesn't have enough bases to reinforce it, and now that his opponent has got up these Archons, got up these Zealots, got up his third base, got up his probes, he can finally start moving across the map, and Vicious isn't going to have enough.
Yeah, I feel like if supaflyz literally just dropped another couple rounds of Zealots and then maybe one more round of Archon DTs, he would probably win the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
at least he could deny the third again.
Oh yeah, these Zealots are going to be doing so much damage. He just hit +3 attack. That's a ridiculously fast +3 attack. He could absolutely destroy stuff. I mean, his opponent only has +1 armor, and he's just going for +1 ranged attack right now. And these units are super tanky. There's no other way of putting it.
I love the fact that he went for armor, knowing that he's going to have a Zergling Roach mix, but man, this attack is going to be so scary. Zealots moving in and picking off a few creep tumors. He's just going to go up and kill this base.
Yeah, these Zealots are going into the third base. The Roach army comes in and actually has a beautiful spot to engage on. He moved back a little bit, which I thought was a blunder. I think he should have just stood his ground, because literally that was probably the best spot he was going to get an engagement at. And these Roaches do a lot of damage to the Zealot count, but there's just so many Zealots and so few Roaches. And the Archons have not even taken a shot yet. One Archon getting extremely low there. And this is kind of an odd miss-micro for a Protoss player. He's like having his army split up awkwardly, and the Archons were really the big damaging force, so all of the Zealots do go down. The Roaches are, they claim victory. They managed to protect the third base, which is extremely key. If FX had lost the third base there, he might as well have just tapped out, because there's not enough resources in the main base to allow you to keep going in this game after you lose that third again. We have a fourth coming down for our Protoss player, so he's still outnumbering our Zerg player on bases. And it looks like the Roach force is moving out and, scouting for proxy pylons. I don't know why he's doing that with his entire army, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like both players making some pivotal mistakes. I feel like supaflyz should have just dove that third and picked it off and taken the losses, seeing as he lost all his Zealots and Archons anyway, and he didn't really... he didn't do anything in the end. He just killed some Roaches off and denied a little bit of mining. I think he should have just dove the third, killed it, and then been like, alright, I'm on 4 bases, he's on 2, there's no way I can lose this.
Yeah, no. And FxAVicius is actually going into the main base, and this army was actually completely distracted by a Ling run-by that was not nearly as big as this Roach run-by. A giant Zealot Warpin is actually going to manage to hold the front for just long enough for these units to return, and that was very, very pivotal. If these Roaches had been allowed to get more into the main, they could have sniped off some pretty key tech buildings and really gotten FxAVicius back into the game. However, they're going to get caught off guard on the ramp, and here come the Archons just doing so much AoE damage. However, the Roaches are in now, but there's just not enough to do anything.
Yeah, this is actually really kind of an awkward position for these Roaches to be in, and for the Zealots to be in. The Zealots can't really get the access they need to hit these Roaches, but the Roaches also can't get a good arc, and it looks like the Roaches will indeed be cleaned up. So a nice hold by supaflyz.
Yeah, that was the Zealot Warp in the front was just so awesome.
Oh yeah, that was sick. I love stuff like that, and I love that he has a huge Archon number. I hate that he lost that Immortal. He should have pulled it back, knowing that that one Immortal wasn't going to kill all those Roaches.
Yeah.
And it would be nice because then he could have an Immortal in his army right now. But it looks like he's just going to be getting some Stargates up, taking advantage of the fact that he has 4 bases to the Zerg's 3, but really not 3 since his main is basically dry. And this is a huge mistake by Vicious. He's going for that Hive. Oh, actually, I take that back. He doesn't have a Greater Spire or anything like that. I thought maybe he was trying to tech switch. And with this economy, you just can't do that. It's just plain and simple.
Well, he's going to need to tech switch because carriers are on the way. And
well, yeah,
if there's one thing that Roaches are really bad against when it comes to Protoss, and we know that Roaches are basically the kill-all unit. They're like the Marines for Zerg, to be honest.
Yeah.
They're not that good against carriers because they can't shoot up.
Absolutely not. But you're not going to have you're on 3 bases. You're not going to have enough corruptors to deal with carriers. Period. So what you want to be doing is building a lot of roaches, a lot of lings, and trying these counterattacks, and trying to get up another base in an economy, or because flat out you're just going to lose in an economic race.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think at this point in the game, it's almost safe to say he has lost in that economic race. He is going for the 4th base. He does manage to snipe off both pylons, which is okay, but all of his infestors are at the front of the army for some reason and just get absolutely destroyed by Archons. I do enjoy the fact that when they get killed by Archons, they actually pop like balloons. That's a reasonably entertaining animation.
Yeah, it is.
And it looks like this Void Ray is here. And this Void Ray on its own can actually put a timer on this entire army. Because, you know, other than the infestors, there's absolutely nothing that can do damage to air units. And these infested Terrans are actually pretty good.
Yeah, they are. Super good. Doing a little bit of damage to that Void Ray. He's going to want to run that back just in case the Zerg player swings up and fungals it once again. But man, look, a lot of Archons. So even if he does go for a Corruptor mix, he's going to have Archons, he's going to have a Mothership. There's just no way for the Zerg player to win outside of a major blunder from supaflyz.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people would say that going for carriers is a major blunder. However, at this point in the game, when you're this far ahead, it's really not. It's kind of like going for battle cruisers. It's a spot where literally you can do nothing wrong. You cannot fail with carriers if your opponent doesn't have any anti-air. It's impossible.
Exactly.
You can fail with things like siege tanks or with Thors or with Archons or with anything else, but you cannot fail if your opponent cannot hit your units.
Yeah. We do have a huge Archon force coming out denying that 4th, and a nice little Roach Archon battle as well.
Yeah, I completely missed that. But anyway, we have the Mothership force coming out, and this is a huge army. It's already maxed. 3 more carriers are on the way. The only thing he really doesn't have is full interceptors on these carriers. However, he did just finish those on these original 3, and these carriers are going to do a lot of damage because they're at +2 attacks.
Yeah, they are. Very rarely do you see carriers at that upgraded of a level.
Yeah, we see this engagement happening, and oh my god, just getting absolutely destroyed. Ugh. So much damage. We have enough energy for a Vortex. I really want a Vortex, Cadoink. Cadoink, I really want a Vortex.
It's got to do a Vortex. Vortex is one of the coolest things ever. Vortexing.
But there's just not a whole lot in there for the Zerg player.
Yeah, no, you really got to get your roaches, get the roaches in there, and then get the Archons in there and do all that splash damage.
There was like a queen in there for the Zerg player. I think that Vortex hit a queen and 3 roaches. However, honestly, it doesn't even matter. He doesn't even need a really awesome Archon toilet to fight this army off, because he has he has 2/3/3 Archons. That's insane. He has 3 shields on Archons.
Yeah.
When do you ever see that? That's ridiculous. And we see Vicious dropping the GG and maybe leaving the game soon.
Yeah.
I'm like looking at my wrist, even though nobody can see it. There we go. All right.
Finally leaving the game.
Yeah. So anyway, guys, if you want any other commentaries, you can head on over to youtube.com/user/boisteroussc2. And if you want your games commentated, you can send them on into boisteroussc2@gmail.com. If you want me to commentate them with Cadoink, because of course I love this guy, I won't lie. You know, Cadounk's awesome. You can put it in that message, and we'll be sure to get co-commentaries up for that. And we'll probably be doing those a lot more in the next month, purely because we both have time now, I think. I mean, maybe not for the next week, because Cadoink is doing this entire moving thing. However, in the future, definitely. So Cadoink, do you have any shout-outs you want to give?
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to say huge thanks for letting me cast on your channel. So everyone who hasn't subscribed to Boisterous, you should do it, because he's awesome. But if you'd like to subscribe to me as well, you can check me out at youtube.com/user/Cadoink Studios. Yeah, or just type Cadoink Studios into that search bar, and I'll be doing a lot of casts. I do a lot of community, I do a lot of pro, I've done a few tournaments, and I do co-commentaries with the lovely Boisterous SC2. So please check out my channel as well if you have the time, and thanks a lot to everyone who was watching this.
Alright guys, this is Boisterous.
This is Cadoink.
signing out.